Welcome back to the Rydell Law Firm Odyssey and Library channel. Today I want to chat a little bit about export seizures due to money laundering, something that we've had some questions this summer about. And it seems like CBP is making some efforts to start looking at certain exports a little bit closer, and we'll talk about that in a second. So, hey, if you need help with import matters or export matters, maybe your goods got detained or seized, or you just want to stay compliant and make sure you stay out of trouble, reach out to Rydell Law Firm. There's a link in the description to schedule a call with us, or you can check out our website to learn more information and reach out to us there. So let's chat about the export seizures we've been seeing. So we've had some consultations in the last 6 months or so this year where potential clients were attempting to export vehicles. And these vehicles were in the category of luxury. Now, we're not talking Rolls-Royce or anything, but Mercedes, BMW. So nice cars, right? Very nice cars. I think these were new or very close to new, a year or two old, if they were used. And the potential clients, right, the folks that came to us to consult, were attempting to export them from the United States, from the Houston area in particular, where we're based, and trying to export them to Africa, a couple countries in Africa. I think Nigeria was one, Ghana may have been another, and there may have been one more, but I forget. But basically, West Africa, some West African countries. And these are two separate, unrelated potential clients within the last 6 months that both had their exports seized, right? Detained, I guess, first, and pending seizure by Customs and Border Protection because they filled out some paperwork incorrectly in regards to, from what I understand, valuation and the details on the export. But that's not good, right? That's going to cause you delays in the export, may cause you some fines and penalties, but it's probably not going to be a seizure, right? If it's just a paperwork error and you're not doing it maliciously. What caused this to be escalated is that then once CBP noticed these errors, looked a little bit closer at these shipments, at these vehicles, they came to the conclusion that these transactions were very likely to be potential money laundering operations. Now, I'm not one to say whether it was or wasn't. Ultimately, these consultations, they did not become clients. And because I was frank with them, because they either waited too long and had very limited options in regards to fighting it. And the other side of that coin is that once you've waited so long, typically you can't just file paperwork and try to get it resolved that way. You have to go to court, right? You have to file a lawsuit either with an administrative judge or something, and escalate that procedure with CBP, with the agency. And I don't litigate, so that's not something that I do. It's not my forte, and I'm frank with them, right? I tell folks that if it looks like it's probably going to be a litigation issue, I'm not your man. I'll tell you that, and I'll connect you with the right folks, of course, but that's not my strong suit. So one of them, they just basically ran out of time and options by the time they got to us. The other one, it probably looked like they were going to have to litigate, right, to get the goods released. And we advised them of that and told them, hey, it's going to cost you a lot. It's going to cost a lot of time. You're probably going to spend more than the vehicle's worth at the end of the day after a couple of years when you get it released. And yeah, it wasn't a very good situation for them. So anyways, I want to chat a little bit about that in regards to why CBP is doing this. What does that mean? Money laundering, stuff like that. So Customs and Border Protection, CBP, one of their mandates is to watch, I guess, and monitor and enforce rules on certain trade activities, including like luxury good exports and such. And they handle the export. Well, I say handle. They are the agency that's responsible for monitoring and running the export filing database, right? It's AES, which I forget which it stands for. It's like export whatever information database or something. Anyways, you have to file all of your export paperwork there. to make sure that you get your goods exported the right way. And a big part of it is so that the U.S. government and various agencies know what goods are leaving, what the value of the goods are, and gives them ideas for trade policy right in the future. So they're in charge of that. If they see issues or something gets red flagged, maybe you are exporting luxury vehicles like that something that has a special red flag category with CBP, then you're much more likely to be visited, right? Or have some paperwork double checked by that agency, by CBP, when you're exporting. So that's one thing that may occur is doing the paperwork incorrectly. Another is that there are certain trade activities, and I think from the consultations I've had on this, it's probably both of this. It's probably both the first category, that the paperwork was maybe incorrect, or the paperwork was in a red flag category in the database that gets pulled up. And the other part of it is that the activity itself, the trade activity of exporting luxury cars, is a favorite, so to speak, tool for money laundering, right? So even if it isn't money laundering, what will happen is foreign interests, or whatever. So I guess I'll just be straight. I'll say, so say it's a cartel, right? So say you have a drug cartel from, I don't know, Venezuela or whatever, and they are sending drugs to the United States, and they sell the drugs in the United States. So now they have cash in the United States. What are they supposed to do with the cash, right? Do they bring it back to Venezuela? Now you're smuggling cash across borders in addition to smuggling drugs. It's a problem, right? And so there are many solutions to that. That's part of our anti-money laundering practice here, but I won't get into that too deep. But basically, what I'll tell you is there are certain ways for you to send back value when it's not cash. And one of that is to buy goods, and with that dirty cash, right, that cash, the drug money, is to buy goods and then export it legally back to the country of origin. So basically, you would buy a luxury car, you buy a BMW, and send it back to Venezuela, and then in Venezuela you can give it away to somebody you owe money to, right, or sell it there, or re-export it somewhere else and sell it. So it is a way. It's called trade-based money laundering, right? It's basically you are transferring value across borders using goods, using products, and so that's ultimately what they are looking for. And there are certain types of factors and behaviors that will alert them to the potential that type of a transaction is potentially money laundering. So I'll tell you, I think from what I understand, CBP is looking more closely at vehicle exports, and in particular luxury vehicle exports. There's been some cases in the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years where folks have been had been exporting luxury vehicles and been arrested for that because it was a big money laundering operation. In addition to fraud, there was one case out of New York, I think, probably 5 years ago. But anyways, so that's one thing that they're looking at is luxury vehicles. They're looking at it a lot closer. I think in certain ports they're looking at it. So probably places like Los Angeles, Houston, Miami, certainly. Maybe Newark, New Jersey, right? That area, and potentially maybe like Virginia or something. So ports that are going to have access and kind of reasonable luxury vehicle prices and accessibility, those are going to be the ones that are most likely monitored. The folks that we were consulting with obviously were out of Houston, and they were going to West Africa. So that's another factor there, is where these luxury cars are going. If they're going to Africa, like West Africa in particular, or potentially certain countries in Latin America, those are probably going to be flagged as potential money laundering just by the behavior. So all of that I just wanted to share because it was very interesting to me to see these consults come up rather quickly, I guess, in the year, or rather soon in time, that were almost identical. It was very, very interesting. And they had nothing to do with each other. They were totally unrelated. But it's just really interesting to see that. I think CBP has been paying a lot more attention to luxury exports, it seems. So that being said, I'll tell you the consults we had with them wasn't good news. Like I said, one of them had basically waited so long that they did not have really any options on the table for them other than litigating, because they took so long to look at the documents before they called us, and then took us, a day or two to look at it. And then by that point, basically you're a couple of days away to file a petition. So your deadline to file a petition is typically 30 days. You may be able to ask for an extension on that. So if you get a seizure or detention notice, you need to act on it ASAP, right? You need to call an attorney ASAP and look at it, figure out what your options are, because the longer you wait, the more limited your options become. Now, we could help them, but obviously because we have a shortened timeline, if we're having to draft this stuff in a couple days and get it to CBP, obviously the flat fee is going to be a lot higher, right, than it normally would be when we would have a couple weeks to deal with it, and to dig into it and hopefully call CBP and get some more details. So one of them basically ran out of time. The other had enough time, and we're in the process of filing a petition. We were basically a second opinion, right? They already had another attorney working with them. They wanted a second opinion. Their first attorney was doing the right stuff. They were just curious, but ultimately their initial petition was denied, and then they were left with the choice of filing an appeal, an in-agency appeal. So you're appealing to a higher level in CBP, or to file a lawsuit, right, against CBP in an administrative court to figure out and allege that their oversight was incorrect based on the law. So, and that's what their attorney told them. I said, yeah, I agree those are the steps that are available to you. The cost of the vehicle, I think, was like $50,000-$60,000, maybe $70,000 or something. So it was not a cheap car, but it wasn't, it wasn't a Rolls Royce or anything. So then you get into the question of how much is the lawsuit going to cost and how long is it going to take. The cost of a lawsuit's probably between $20,000 to $50,000, just like a minimum. And timeline, probably 2 years. Some of our cases that I'm the in-house counsel or out-of-house counsel for on the franchise side, some of our litigation that we're a part of, I'm not the litigator, but I'm the company attorney, so I'm there and involved. Some of those cases have already been going on for 2.5 years. Obviously, some of that's because of COVID, but it's not speeding up. it's a long process, and it's not easy. So so it was not good news for either of those consults. And I basically had to tell them, I said, look, your options are limited, and they are expensive options, and they are time-consuming options. So you really got to make a business decision, right? Is it worth it or not? Do I got to take the loss and get a gut punch, right? A hard lesson learned, or do I keep fighting it out? So, and we can help you make that decision, but ultimately, it's yours, right? It's what's best for you. And ultimately, I think they ended up having to let him go, right? Instead of fighting it, unfortunately. So that's what I wanted to share. Export seizures seem to be going up. Not to mention the stuff that's involved with like Russia and Iran and China and sanctions. This is just totally separate. This is stuff that's going to countries that are allowed. These are goods that are not sanctioned, and export seizures and detentions seem to be up. So be aware of that. Be careful. If you need help, if you got something detained or seized by CBP or BIS, or you want to stay out of trouble and you want some consulting on the compliance matters, give us a call, right? We got a link in there. You can schedule a call with us in the description. Go to our website, learn more about who we are, what we do, and see if we can help you. If it sounds like we're a good fit, we'd love to chat with you, hear about what you're doing, and find out how we can help you. So thank you for listening. We'll talk to you next time.